there it goes. It says it's working.
Yeah, it's booting up on my side.
Okay. Okay, good.
It worked last time. It just didn't. It wasn't able to. Other people weren't able to see it. But maybe that for this, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Because basically it's just a shortcut to record it, and then I can attach it right to the I can save it in the office hours list right away, and then it's just there, and we don't have to we don't have to do any downloading or uploading to make it work.
Perfect. It is going. That's a good shortcut to know about.
Yeah, it seems, I think it works well. So, well, and I'll just pause and say a welcome. I'm gonna leave in 15 minutes and go pick my daughter up from her first day of school. So Eva's the host of the meeting, and we'll be here together today. We had an open agenda, and we have, just to put your thinking cap around, 2 topics. One we might talk maybe more about today, which is what would we do if we couldn't have paper handouts? And another, which is we'd like to talk about next week perhaps, which is permissions and safety and confidentiality for coaching when it might include video. Whether that's sort of zooming yourself into someone's setting or sharing files. So we're not going to talk deeply about that this week, but look forward to talking about it next week.
I think everyone's here. I mean, no one else is in the waiting room, so. I also would love to hear, I don't know if anyone on here, actually, yes, Heather and Stacy. I just would love to hear too if folks have started teaching and having orientation and how it's going. So we could pop that idea into people's hats too, but we can start in any of the places.
So we did orientation last Thursday, and out of 20 people, we had 18 people come. So that's the most people we've had at orientation, and we did our introductions, very similar to how you guys did it during module 1, and that was a lot of fun. So it was really nice to have that during orientation, so we don't have to worry about it tonight. So it gives us lots of space tonight to do what we need to do tonight. And we also did the brain architecture game, which we usually do in orientation, but we've never done it this way. So it was really cool. I was really excited how it went. So Christina was there, so she can chime in too, but I was really pleased and excited.
And so, Heather, did you have, like, were you playing the brain architecture game so people could see? Like, how did you do it?
So I had the materials, and I pre-made the base, so we didn't have to spend time doing that. And I just tilted my camera so they could see, and I said, okay, here are our situations that we're dealing with. Give me feedback. How do you want me to build this structure? I had practiced a couple times, and I always got the same structure, so it was really cool to have them engage and add their ideas, because our structure was very different than what I had done when I practiced. So it was really cool. It was a lot of fun. It was really exciting.
Neat.
Very cool.
It was exciting. I think we've been thinking a lot about virtual as being like all things that live in the computer, but I don't know how many of you saw the short videos we sent out from David Sewell McCann, and Eva just did a nice job of incorporating some of his ideas about when we talk about where we are and talk about where people are in their space, it grounds us where we are. So I can imagine that doing something and showing it on the camera brings that feel of, oh, it's like when you're little and you think you can climb inside the mirror, or you kind of get inside and see how it's going in there.
Well, I'll share. I'm hoping that Stacy will share a little bit too, and Gail, but we have done 4 lots of orientation this week. We combined, it actually went really well. Only 1 out of 72 did not show up to orientation. So, yeah.
Wow, that's great.
It felt really good. I already attached to the 18 in our Tuesday group. So we did the first hour was 2 groups together going over just the basics, and then asking them what they felt their environment should look like and how they would best set that up at home. And then they each went to their own cohorts. So 2 groups on Tuesday and 2 on Wednesday. And then the facilitators spent a little time getting to know their groups. So I'm glad it's done.
Yeah.
So, Gail, so we were on, technically last night, and it was so funny because Sarah said, when you guys meet your instructors, you could leave and not have to come back to the larger group. But our people did not want to leave. They stayed until 7:45. We did the introduction, your name, how many years have you been in early childcare, and what age group did you work with, which seemed was a great introduction stuff for everybody to share during that 45 minutes that we have. They really liked it. We asked if they had any follow-up questions, if they had anything, the expectation for Sunday. And it was so funny. I told them, if this was in person, you would have had toys in front of you to play while the class was going on. So please feel free to color, knit, something to make you stay engaged with the group, and they kind of appreciate that, I think. So definitely trying to still replicate the environment, even though it's Zoom, so we all have that commonality of when we do the class. And even Jaren said, and if you feel you need to stand up, put your computer in a place where you can stretch and still engage in the class. So we gave them all that permission.
Love that.
This is Stacy. Sorry, I was finishing driving home. One of the things that we experienced too, I think, was that I felt like people were pretty comfortable with the technology side of things. We did a brief introduction of Google Slides and just kind of talked about some of the differences between the phone and iPads and computer use. And for the vast majority of people, it seemed like it was comfortable and they were able to navigate it really well. And I felt pretty encouraged about that piece of it.
Cool. Exciting, everybody.
It's exciting. I'm excited to hear too, all just the different ways. I love, Gail said, making the environment one like we would make it is, it just really gives me this wash of relief to say, I mean, I knew you guys were going to do way better than I've been doing. And already you're only orientation in, and I can hear all the creative solutions that you're finding that are working for your community, really in line with what we hope will happen.
But Lisa, you and Eva have done a beautiful job. You have given alternatives. You've set up a resource bank. You've been on for people to observe and to learn from. And you need to pat yourself on the back because you're doing great work.
Thank you. We've also been reflecting on how rusty we are and how it's such emotional labor. It's such hard work, and just really appreciating. We know we don't pay you all very much. We know you put so much into this, and it's a lot, and it's a lot for all of us for different reasons.
Right.
But what joy it was last night to welcome a brand new spanking people, maybe for the first time in the EQ field. That is what we want and that is what we need. And they were excited to say, yes, I'm ready to learn.
Yeah.
So, yes.
And yeah, and people we maybe wouldn't have been able to reach if we didn't have the virtual courses available this year. It is really exciting.
Lisa, I have one lady that was in tears of joy. She said, I've wanted to take this for years and years, but I could not make the travel bit fit in. And it just, these people have been amazing. I mean, I was terrified when I'm trying to teach myself. And on Tuesday night, someone taught me how to save the chat, much easier than the way I was doing it. And I was like, oh, these people are amazing. So, and then your resources, while I felt intimidated at first, we've practiced and they're great. I love them. But at first I was like, oh no, I don't know how to do this. But,
Mhm.
But you do, but you do.
I'd say that you know the curriculum, and that is a powerful strength. And you want to have strong relationships with the participants, and that is a powerful strength. So if there's some aspect of technology that you need to learn, brush up on, you've got a whole team behind you. The team that are your participants and the team of Lisa and Eva and other EQ IT instructors.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I so appreciate that, Ellen, that the team includes the people who are taking the course. Because really, we've seen, Eva and I last night were like, do they have access to the share? And then we remembered, you know what? We've actually popped into their breakout groups and some of them have already figured it out ahead of us. They already tested these things out. Much, you know, people who take care of infants and toddlers too have a lot of that childlike approach to things where they're like, I wonder, I'm curious, maybe I'll try this, just like a baby would do. All right, well, I'm gonna go pick Josie up from school because the first day of school, she would like me to be there. I did talk about this in the live stream when I was by myself last night, that what do we imagine is essential and not essential in the handouts in case we weren't able to get paper. But I also found out the supplier got back to me this afternoon that she did, in fact, she has paper. It might not be the same color. And we don't also, the supply chain for those plastic folders in the back is broken. They're not available. We could get maybe a third of them. So the handout packets that will come later will probably be a different color and not have a plastic folder in the back, but we'll get some. But I still think it's a great conversation to have. But I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna log myself out, and Eva, text me real quick if that doesn't work.
Okay.
But you should be the host, so you should be, when I push the leave button, I shouldn't get a leave for everybody.
Okay.
And then I'll see you all next week.
All right. Good luck
Keep
getting
up the
Josie.
good work.
Hope she had a great day.
Yeah, so I mean, I loved hearing everyone's orientations and first night. And Heather, how cool that you did the brain architecture, because we thought about that and we thought, oh, I don't know how we would do it. So it's so nice to get to hear everyone's different parts that sort of stick out to them as something that was important. Like you were saying, Gail, like take care of yourself, color, knit, or have a place to stand. It just, I think all of those little things collectively can make our beginnings of our relationship so much more powerful. So it's really, I love hearing it.
And don't you think that it's also what we want teachers, family child care providers to do for infants and toddlers. And many do. And in this course, they discover many opportunities of different little nuances that can be added to the day, to the evening class, that make it feel good, that make you feel welcome, that make you feel included.
I agree 100%. And I always bring it back from when we did our first training, when you welcome us into that space the first time as brand new spanking EQ people and all the toys and the scarves. I want them to have that same visual that we all experience when we trained, when we were in person, how that feeling felt like, welcome in, come on down. You're here to learn something fun.
Well, if there, we could keep talking about this, or we could shift to think more about the handout packet. Sounds like there is enough paper. I don't know if Lisa had said this in the live stream or if she just said it to me, but apparently there's just sort of a shortage on paper right now because of some of the factories that make the paper are behind. So that was like, oh, wow. But it sounds like there is enough paper to do the printing that we need, but it would be in different colors. But I think it's also probably, especially as we're shifting into virtual, and as all of you are beginning or will be beginning a new course, to think about what works well and what would be important to keep. Or if there's things that you're like, well, we don't really use that. Or that's harder to use. I know with some of the handouts that have a lot of words and a lot of language, it feels different to review those in a virtual setting. So Lisa and I have pre-recorded some of those handouts, but I don't know if that's the best use of people's time or energy to review handouts in that fashion either. So I'd love to hear other people's thoughts.
Well, I haven't started teaching yet. It won't be until January that we start teaching our course. But one thing that I thought about the pre-recordings was what a nice thing for us, because, you know, when you're on like a webinar, all the Zoom calls that we've all been on for so many months, when it's, when there aren't multiple modes, it gets really boring. So to be able to say, we're going to watch a quick video of, you know, Eva talking about this, you know, she's going to read this handout for us, just to mix it up a little bit, so that it's not all the same exact format. I think that is great, but I haven't used it yet. So yeah.
I was in this is Brenda. I was in another webinar training yesterday for today. And they actually use.
Hey, Brenda, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just having a little hard time hearing you. It kind of sounds muffled.
Maybe the speaker's too loud. Can you hear me now?
Kind of. It still sounds a little bit muffled. But try it again. I don't know if it's the.
I was in another workshop yesterday, and they had.
I'm sorry, Brenda. You may need to reconnect with us. It's still super muffled. Sorry, I want to hear what you're saying so badly.
Okay.
Could, I don't know, it could be if you're on speaker sometimes, or maybe it's if you're using headphones. Sometimes that happens.
Speakers. Let me see if I unplug the speakers. Can you hear me?
That's a little bit better.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yesterday I was on another training, and there was I don't know if it's an app or it was the way they had us participate in the training was using an app that was called Mural. Have you heard of Mural?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I'm still trying to listen really intently to hear you, but I think you said, "Have I heard of Mural?" And yes, we have heard. We have heard of Mural. We used Mural we used Mural with Stacy and Nicole's cohort and Alicia's cohort. And so yeah, and I think that we actually have that in our Google Classroom as a technology resource that you could use if you were interested in that. Yeah, we do. Did you like using it?
Yeah, I thought that was another way that someone could participate differently.
Yeah. I think that that's, a definite possibility. I think that there's so many different types of cool technology that we can use and play with and decide what seems to work well for our groups and participants. So yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Okay.
What other thoughts around the handout packets? And I know that maybe the question is too hard to know right now. But maybe as you continue to use them, it'll become more clear to everyone. But you could think back to just teaching face to face, and I don't know, how do you feel that the handouts work for folks?
I think, Eva, especially for the people who may not want to use the slides, using handout as, some of those handouts where you can just write it on here, just bring back your thoughts on the paper. And again, our groups seem to be pretty technology savvy, but you don't know till you really start using it. So I feel like many of them, I like the relate reflect in it, but we did also hand out the other ones. People seem to love the different colored ones. They collect them, they put them in binders. So I feel like it's a support to have that in there, but I do like the other relate reflects that we have.
And Eva, I'm planning to using the reflect relates. And I did inform the class that they were going to get the opportunity to practice. Since we meet on a Sunday, they had 5 days to pick one strategy to implement in the class. And then when we come back on Sunday, I'd break them out into small groups so they could discuss it. And for like 2 minutes, like a quick date. And then we come back and share out what everybody learned.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been doing that in our class that we're doing right now, and it's working. It seems like it's working well, and I think there's always ways to continue to strengthen that part, but so far that seems to be working well. One of the other ideas and pieces that we're trying to incorporate more is referring to the relates throughout the module. So after each learning experience, saying, let's go back to relate item A, and you might jot a few notes down now about that relate item. And so trying to be more intentional about weaving those parts in too. But yeah, Sarah, I agree. I like the colors too. I kind of miss having the colors right now.
We happen to have quite almost enough, and then Mary was kind enough to photocopy on matching colored paper for the few we didn't have. So I don't know. I think a lot of us enjoy. I don't know, the beauty in some of the materials, I think.
Yeah. And so then would you send the relates to?
We did 4 pickups. Eva, I'm going to have to do one more. So we had bags, which again, Mary has been amazing with, created bags full of all the resources. They picked up a bag and their spiral bound book. And then we are sending on a weekly basis the handouts virtually, but not in one big lump. So if they want the virtual ones, they can get them, but we just put them all in bags. And we've had, I think we've got about 16 of the 72 that haven't picked up yet. So hopefully we will get that figured out. And if not, they'll have to use the virtual form.
Mm-hmm.
And she did a good job of having them drive by, and they really came and drive by and pick up this stuff. According to Sarah, they still wanted to come out the car and have a chat, but yes, they definitely came by to pick up all the material. There's very amenable in that.
Traffic cones to separate them, so they could wait if there were a few people waiting, and then we had a hand sanitizing station. But yes, they all wanted to chat. They're clearly needing some interaction, but
yeah. That must have been nice actually to get to sort of even just briefly meet them face to face.
Yeah, no, it really was very much
for them to see you too. Yeah. How did that work for you, Heather and Christina, to get materials to your group?
So I had them do a pickup on Sunday, and the same thing. A lot of them got out of their cars to chat, and were just really excited just to put a name to a face and all that. I did realize after the fact that we had some people from Greeley that I hadn't considered that might be a challenge for, just because in the past it hasn't been a challenge. So something to keep in mind for next semester, to keep that in mind if somebody's from out of Fort Collins or not from Fort Collins.
And Christina, are you teaching a separate Spanish course, or are you teaching with Heather?
I only teach English class this semester, but I am open to teach Spanish always.
Have you had a need for that?
No. I don't know if it's the opportunity in well or online course. I would like to do a online course for all Colorado. If we can do it, it's gonna be great for people who can have access to a Spanish course close to their homes.
Mm-hmm.
That is the idea. I want to consider it with you, but I don't know if it's possible implementing or not.
Mm-hmm. I think it's probably possible. In this area, they're planning to do a Spanish course starting very soon. I think starting the 1st of September, around there. So
I think that would be so great. I know that if it would be open up to the state, we have, the 2 times that we've taught it, we've had multiple participants who I think they probably would have gotten more out of it if they could learn in their home language.
And I have to say, for the rural communities where resources are thin, a statewide Spanish speaking option would be amazing.
That would be. Well, Christina, you ask and you shall receive. I think it would be great. I'm definitely going to talk with Lisa about that, about how we could begin.
Okay, I talked with Carolina too, but I think she's open to do it. She loved do it too. Then we want it.
Yeah. I think Sophia, I don't know what, I can't remember what Sophia's plans are for teaching in Spanish, of course, for Denver. It would be great to have a few options. Yeah. Ellen's thumbs up. Agreement. So the other thing that was brought up to us this last week that we thought maybe next week we could ask folks, or we could ask folks to think more about for next week, or to bring things for next week, was as far as virtual coaching, maybe virtual training, but more virtual coaching, just having some sort of release forms, or what different communities' thoughts and experiences are with needing to have media release forms, especially for coaching, if a video is going to be taken in a classroom setting and then shared with a coach. So I wondered if anyone had thoughts or experiences with that.
Hi, Eva. It's Jessica with Boulder County.
Hi.
And I'm sorry, I just caught the tail end of what you were saying, because I usually just join these to hear the conversation because I'm not an actual trainer.
Yeah.
But you know, we're talking about this very thing in Boulder County, and I've taught practicum at Front Range for a number of semesters, and so we have a pretty clear protocol about how students can get permission to videotape themselves working with the children. And then, you know, we've been having a pretty extensive discussion about how really at many centers, directors probably already have something signed by families, or at least some sort of messaging. And so is our responsibility really just to make sure, you know, that or to understand what each individual center's situation is before we get into that. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I mean, I can answer any questions. I'm sure there are lots of people here who could probably answer questions.
No, that's helpful to hear that you guys are having that conversation. And yeah, same with me when I was teaching at the community college and teaching some of the practicum courses. We had our own, I had all of my students sign a media release form for when they were doing observations. And like you said, also many childcare programs already may have that, but I think that it's probably important for us to know that. So I think it's whether or not we feel like we need to have an additional release form as coaches.
Right. Or at least some sort of protocol that we all follow before we bring cameras into classrooms. And, you know, I think that I've told my team that, you know, I might be just a little bit jaded because of my years with the school district. You know, the public preschool classrooms are a little bit different, but we just served, enough children who had, you know, whose identities were being protected for any number of reasons. And so, you know, as we just, all the adults in the room just need to be aware of what's going on, because that one adult who knows those details needs to know that this kiddo just can never be on the screen, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So as long as all the adults know, then the kids should remain protected.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember a few years ago with TS Gold, there was a big discussion around privacy because of videos being taken of children for developmental observations.
Yep, right.
Yeah. Any coaches on here? Have you thought about using media release forms? Are you already doing that? How are you communicating with your coaches about that? And maybe you haven't had observations in their classrooms yet because you've not gone there yet, but
You know, Ava, I did it with Pyramid Plus in like 2014 when we were doing certifications, and we had to share video with the Institute. So it was, you know, a step further. You know, we were sharing it, the teacher was sharing video with the coach, but then the coach was sharing video with the Institute. So we had, I think, all the students sign an additional one.
oh, like all of the children
Yeah.
and an additional one.
Yeah, but I think that was because they were sharing it outside of the teacher coach relationship. So it was in addition to the other photo releases, but in the past we've used language that's been in center's handbooks for media releases, that it would possibly be shared with coaches as part of that, what they sign already.
Yeah. Okay, that helps. Megan, what was your experience?
We're just kind of starting to figure that out, you know, because we're starting our new kind of coaching cycle, the incentive program, and trying to figure out what that's going to look like. I know Adley, she was on the call, but I think she had to go. She has someone that she was doing some streaming with. So the person was actually streaming her into the classroom. Okay. And that was for Adley's Pyramid Plus approach coach certification, and for coaching this person. But we're trying to figure out if we're thinking we'll probably just do what Clayton is saying they're going to do for their observations, and ask the teachers to, you know, have a co-teacher video them. But I feel like because the only people that are going to be watching the video are going to be the person, the teacher, and the coach. I don't know. I don't really feel like we need to have any kind. I mean, most of our programs already have releases, but like Corinne was saying, if there are children in the classroom that aren't allowed to have their picture taken, the teacher knows who that child is, and you know, we would have to plan ahead to make sure that child's not on the video, even though it's not going to go anywhere. But you know, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting.
Yeah. Well, no, I think that really helps to hear, because I think it may be like Jessica's saying, that we need to just type up a little bit of guidance around those steps, basically, and just write that out for when we're doing virtual coaching, so that we know sort of like where whose responsibility lies where, so that we can make sure that those conversations are being had between coach and coachee.
And I'm sorry, Eva, I was, if you've already talked about this, I was just on with someone trying to get our links out for all our classes. But when I did quite a lot of virtual at the end of this last fiscal virtual coaching. And the one thing I found to be so important was to make sure the director was on board and that the director knew that I had to have the caregiver out of the classroom, that we could not be providing this coaching with them on a computer inside the classroom, that they needed coverage. And everybody was great, but some people thought, oh, well, we can do it when all the babies are sleeping, or we can do it when the toddlers are sleeping. And that was a big thing for me getting, and we actually have one for CSQI, a virtual coaching form that states all that. I just shared that same information.
Okay. Is that for your council, or is that through your?
I believe that our council created ours, because I don't think it was a requirement, but we just, when we switched in March, we had all of our programs sign one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. That's
Sarah,
helpful.
it'd be great to see what that looks like if you don't mind sharing it.
Yeah, absolutely. I am technically on PTO this week, so if you're okay about waiting till next week, I will get one to you.
Please wait, and please take your vacation.
We have a few that say that they'd love to see that too. So,
yeah.
But obviously take your time, Sarah.
And also, I mean, yes, it's so important to get the teacher out of the classroom, but for the purpose of video coaching, that's kind of another piece of that agreement, I would think.
And actually, Megan, I didn't do any of that. I did do some where they just recorded the conversations in the classroom. Mm-hmm. And so they just had a device recording that, and we went over that. We didn't actually do any videotaping inside of the classrooms. Everybody was just stressed to the max anyway, with having to combine classrooms and split classrooms and put screens up. And so we just stuck with the language part for that.
To follow up on Megan's comment with the virtual ratings of what they're doing for Clayton, they're actually not recording classrooms of children. They announced it today at their question and answer session that they will only be having them go in and record their classroom with the cameras without children in there.
Good to know. Wow.
So I'd be curious to see how that follows into a conversation such as this, because they are very persistent about, we don't want to invade anyone's privacy with so many kids involved. So I don't know why they made the overall decision other than a comment they made at the Q&A today. So, but that was publicly released, and their conversation will actually be recorded from today and on their website by the beginning of next week, if anyone was interested on the feedback and conversation around it in further depth. So
definitely. I wonder if their decision to do that has to do with there's so many people involved. Because when it's just the teacher and just the coach and you watch that together, I mean, then you could delete it. It's very different than, I think, taking a video of, teachers and children in the classroom and then uploading it somewhere, and who knows how many people are looking at it. I can see why they wouldn't want to do that. But it also brings up a lot of questions about how they're actually gonna
So I actually can tell you guys that if you want, having talked with the readers a lot, that it's actually going to be a video of the empty classroom to see the layout of the classroom. There's going to be evidence of learning questions. There will be photographs, but no children will be involved, which is why they're using the R tool, because it's not measuring really interactions at all, except for within the evidence of learning, which is why it's only lasting 2 years, because it's a different type of rating. Having worked with CSQI since the pilot in 2015, I don't know how you could video a classroom in Arapahoe County. It just wouldn't work. There's so many stresses already in most of ours. Half of them are too small to have 2 raters in, let alone someone figuring out how to videotape. And so, Yeah, I don't know. We did a meeting last month, so I'm curious. Wasn't on this last one to see if they did anything.
Mhm. Okay, thank you all. I'm seeing a few other thoughts in the chat. Just Heather's experience in reassuring teachers that recordings are for coaching purposes only and not be shared, and definitely something to be really mindful of. And then Jessica added just recording or broadcasting children without a parent permission and without the permission for parents to say no is a liability. So yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm glad we're having this conversation. Actually, really glad, because I think that we need to come up with some collective guidance, especially as we're moving forward in this world. And oh, go ahead, Ellen.
In the spring, I had some coaches that I was working with that the program was sending them little video clips of what was going on in their classroom. And so there's also that, the program sending it to the coach, and she understood that they had full permission from parents of any children that were included. And yet, it wasn't this who owns that video then. And once it's sent to you, your agreement about deleting it and their agreement about, as a program, do they want to save them for some reason? And then a parent's perspective, I'd be very open to signing for short-term use, but not for holding. So that could also be a component in there.
Yeah, this is helpful information. We are with our couple of folks who are on here from cohort 12, but we're planning to offer our EQ coaching with the Relate training, Ellen, in towards the end of the year, probably after relationship-based professional development goes. But this is going to be really helpful to continue to work out these parts, because we will be encouraging people to do virtual coaching, and we have encouraged people to do virtual coaching, but I think that we need to take some of these parts into consideration and write some things up to help with this. So, oh, Ellen, you're muted.
The word of the last 6 months, you're muted. Or the phrase, you're muted. And I like to visualize that I became a lighter color, which would be terrible because I'm already pale. But to be on topic, I think that having a document that is revisited as we learn more and know more, and it's dated and updated so that we can continue to stay on top of each of the details that are involved here. And you think of your own privacy, your children's privacy, your family's privacy, how important it is that we consider everybody's experience with privacy.
Few notes.
Well, and I'm wondering, because I'm thinking of a lot of the programs that we support, even in programs that have no interest in a video aspect, having them journal all the things they felt went well during a certain experience, and you know, revisiting it that way as opposed to, some people hate video regardless, even if it was allowed.
And you know, Sarah, that's exactly what started out with some of the coaches that I was working with in the spring, is that they were writing things. And then they suggested to the coach, well, what if I sent you a little video? We have permission. And she said, I'd ask about videoing 22 times. She said, well, maybe twice. And they would always say, oh, no, no. But somehow when it was within their hands, the camera, it made it doable for them. So I think it could open, some doors might open, but I also think you could have a very meaningful coaching session talking about their perspective of the situation and what it was like, what they thought it was like for the children or for individual children.
Thank you, everyone, for these thoughts. Sarah, I hope that you enjoy your vacation/staycation.
My granddaughter's here, and if ever I have a perspective of working moms, it's now. I was at home with my children when they were little, but she's so used to when she's here getting 100% of my attention and having to kind of be working when I'm on PTO. I have a lot of empathy for anyone trying to do this because it's tough.
Yeah, it is. It is. I just saw Jessica's comment, and thank you, Jessica, for being on, and she's got to head out. But this was really helpful, and I look forward to hearing how teaching goes next week too. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming on today. And if there's things that come up over this next week that are just coming up in your community or that are bubbling up for you, reach out, and because it's helpful for us to say, oh, that could be great to have a discussion about at office hours. So we appreciate those thoughts, and have a great afternoon, and we will see you all very soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Good to see everybody.
Good to see you all.